Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to explain about the functions. In my previous video I explained about the collections, which are nothing but the tuple, set and the dictionary. So now it's time for the function. So this is a very important topic in a programming language. You have to understand very carefully, and it will be somewhat confusion also, so understand very carefully. Okay, let's start the video. A function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. Means what? So function is like a block of code. So in every programming we'll be writing some code. So in that block, like a block of code. So what is the specialty of this function? So the function will be called, the function will be executed when it is called only. So when the function is called only, the function will be executed. If we just define the function and if we leave, it will not execute. So after defining the function, it's mandatory to call that function also. So if you will not call the function, it will not get any type of an error, but will not get a certain answer. So it's mandatory to call the function after defining. So I will be explaining this thing in when I am explaining this syntax. But as of now, remember, the functions will be executed when it is called only. So when it is runs only. Yes or no? Next, you can pass the data known as parameters. In these functions also, in this function, we'll be having some parameters and the arguments. We'll be learning about this thing in the further coming lectures. So what are these parameters? It's like a passing the data. It may be any type of data. To pass any data inside the functions, we'll be using that as a parameter. And we'll be having the argument also, where we can call that parameters that are known as the arguments. I will be explaining this parameter and the argument very clearly in the further. But as of now, remember this thing. Next, even in this function, we'll be having some written data also. So we can return any type of data or the information which is there. Yes or no? To say simply, the function is nothing but the set of instructions to perform a specific task. So it will be having some set of instructions. What are the instructions? So instructions are nothing but the rules and the guidelines which we have to follow to perform a particular specific task. So if they gave any specific task, to perform a specific task, we'll be having some set of instructions which we have to follow. So that are known as the functions. It's like a block of code. So when I'm explaining theoretically, so when I'm explaining practically, you'll be understanding this thing more clearly. But as of now, remember this thing. Yes or no? So now let's understand how to define the function and how to call the function. So to implement the function, so we have to follow the mainly two steps to implement any type of a function. We have to understand these two steps. First one is creation of the function. Next step is calling the function. So first we have to define the function. After defining the function, we have to call the function which we have defined. So the syntax for the defining the function is this thing. So we have to use dif, which is defining the function, dif keyword, which is an inbuilt keyword. Next, the function name, we can write anything. So, but we'll be having some guidelines where we cannot use, where we cannot begin with some characters. So the function name should start with an recommended is to with the letters only, alphabets only. We have to start the function name with the alphabets, not with some special characters. Understood? Next, after writing the function name, we have to mention this parenthesis. These are the parentheses which we have to mention. Next, whatever the code we want to write, we can write the code here. The block of code we can write over here. After completion of this, if we try to print, we will not get the result. It will not throw any type of an error, but will not get the correct output. So to show that output, we have to call that function in this way. So without calling the function, the output will be not displayed. So I will be showing you in practically so that you will be understanding more clearly. Look at here. We have to write def, and the function name can be anything like my function, let's consider, and parenthesis, very important. Now let's consider this is a block of code, something. If we execute simply, what will be the output? Let's see. See, nothing will be going to print, nothing will be going to display. So we have to call this function also, which is my function. When we define the function, it is mandatory to call that function. It's very mandatory. Now let's see. Now look at here. Now the hello world is printed as usually. So understand, only by defining the function is not enough. We have to call the defined function also. It's very important. Don't forget this thing. Now I think you understood. If we will not mention the function call, what will be happening? So it's very important. So what is the second point over here? You can pass the data like a parameters. So I said I will be explaining the parameters and the arguments. Now let's see what is a parameter and what is a argument. Look at here. Let's consider the function name as add. You know what is add? Adding the numbers. So we'll be adding some parameters. What are the numbers or what are the data we are mentioning over here? The parenthesis in the function definition when we are calling the function. So in these parameters, when we mention any value or the element, that are known as a parameter. Remember, that is known as a parameter. So now let's take the parameters like a comma b. So we have to add these two things. Now let's use some logic, which is what is the logic for the add? A plus b. Yes. Now what we have to do here? So in the previous example, it is a default parameter. So we have no parameters, so that in the argument also will not mention anything. But now it is a two. We have two parameters. So now we have to mention the arguments also. What are the arguments? The values for the parameters. The values for the parameters. Let's consider the two values. Let it be 1 comma 3. What is the sum of 1 comma 3? 4. Now let's see what will be the output. So here the function name is add. No. Yeah. Now let's see. Look at the output, which is 4. The sum of 1 and 3 is 4. So in this way, we can use the parameters and the arguments. So these are the parameters and these are the arguments. Remember. So look at here this note. A parameter is a variable listed inside the parenthesis. We have to mention the parameters inside the parenthesis of the function definition. Yes or no? What are the arguments, the value which we have kept the parameter? So the value that is sent to the function which is called. So what is the value for the parameters? That will be comes under the argument. Yes or no? These are the parameters and these are the arguments. Now let's understand what is the written data. How to use the written data. Now look at here. The return type should be in the function definition only. See this thing. So here we have to keep the return, which is return. Then now, so after returning this, we have to print that value which we have returned. What we are returning here? The a plus b. So the a plus b have to be printed. So to print, we have to keep here the print statement. I think you got the point. See, we are getting the same result. So by using this written data also, we can solve these functions. Okay, now you understood how to define the function and how to call the function. Now, what is the use of using this function? You have to understand now what is the use of this function. Why to use this thing? Why to use means because the functions will be having some special feature which we can reuse the code. Reuse the code means what? We can use this function in other code. No need to write the whole code again. So by using this function name, we can use the function name and we can use in other code also. No need to write this entire code again. So this is a reusability where the time will be saving. So where no need to write the whole entire code again, just using the function name and we can use that thing in the other code itself. Okay, this is the one special feature in the function, remember. So here we can use multiple arguments also for the one function. So no need to use only the one argument for the one function. We can use many arguments for the single function. So look at here, we are getting the three results. Yes or no? So we can use in this way also. First, suppose if you don't know how many arguments have to be passed to the single function. Now, at that time, what we have to do? So now we have here two parameters and we are used the two arguments. But when we don't know how many arguments we have to pass through the function, then what we have to do? Let's see. At that time, we have to use arbitrary argument. What is that? Arbitrary argument. In short, it's like star args. So what is this? If you don't know how many arguments that will be passed into the function, so when we don't know how many arguments we have to pass to the function, so we don't know how many parameters are there, so that to pass the arguments values, so at the time we can use it will be helpful. So we can add the a star before the parameter name. So before the parameter name only we have to use the star. So by using the star we can use how many arguments we want, we can use. So we can take two arguments or the three arguments or the four arguments. It's our wish. We can take how many arguments we want by using the star in the parameter only before the name itself. I will be showing you when I'm explaining practically. But see, so yeah, parameter name in the function definitions. When we are using in the function definition only, we have to use the star when the beginning of the name of the parameter. So now let's see how to use this thing. Now look at here this code. So in the parameter we have kids, but how many kids are there we don't know. So that we have to use this arbitrary argument which is star in front of the parameter. So when we want to print this kids, just print kids and we have to call this function also. In this we can use how many arguments we want and how many kids we want, we can add over here. We'll not get any type of an error. We are getting the output as it is. So when we want to add some number of arguments and we don't know how many arguments we have to add, then at that time we can use this star. Okay. And you can also send arguments with the key value syntax. What is the key value syntax? I explained in the when I'm explaining the dictionary concept. So the dictionary will be in the form of a key value pair. So that key value pair, key value syntax also we can use in this function. Let's see how to use that key value pairs. Suppose let's consider the child one name is this Hari, and similarly the child 2 name is Harini and child 3 name is Harsha. So we can explicitly keep the key and the value of that key. So how I explained in the dictionary. So we can directly call in this way also. So after keeping this thing, we have to pass this child 1, child 2, child 3 as a parameters over here, so that it will be calling the child 1, child 2, child 3's value. Yeah, in this way we can use. Okay, child 1, child 2, child 3. So the child 1 value, child 2 value and the child 3 value will be printed over here. So if you want only the specific child name also we can pass. So if you want only the child 2 name which is Harini, so we can call the child 2 only also. By keeping this print child 2, the only child 2 value will be printed over here. So we can use in this way also. Okay. Okay, now we understood how to use this key value pairs also in the functions. Now we don't know how many arguments we have to pass for the key value pairs also. Before, we don't know how many arguments to pass. At that time we used normally arbitrary argument. Now if we don't know how many key value pairs have to be passed to the functions, at that time what we have to use, let's see. At that time we have to use arbitrary key value keyword arguments. Means the keyword means what is a keyword, which is a key value pairs. So for how to represent the keyword arguments, we can say keyword or keyword also. It's not an issue. You should understand the concept. Yes. Now, so for this we have to use two stars. For normal numbers of this, we have to use a single argument. When we have a key and the value, we have to use the two stars before the mentioning the parameter name. So similarly, this how we use here. Similarly, we have to use here, but 2 stars. Now let's see practically how to use. Look at here. We have to use the 2 stars and the output will be going to print in this way. Okay. So when we have a key value pairs, we have to use 2 stars. When we will not have the key value pairs, we will be using the 1 star before the parameter name. So look at here, the output is in the form of a dictionary format. Yes or no? And when we will not have the key value pairs, it is in the form of a set format. Yes or no? Sorry, this is what? It's not set, it's a tuple. Yes or no? When we use the 2 stars, the output is showing in the form of a dictionary. When we use the single star, it is showing in the form of a tuple. So tuple representation is normal parenthesis. Yes or no? And that's it for this video. I will be covering the remaining topics in my next video. As of now, thanks for watching. Let's meet in next video.